Recording in progress. Hare Krishna. I should have recorded. Okay, you can continue. Or is someone else reading, or
Labanga can read.
Labanga, you can read.
The actual state of the party that we are in. This is my first example.
Sorry, text 41.
You know, there are out of the 294.
Can you hear me?
Just
Yes.
about, there's something else going on there. Someone needs to
I
mute
don't know.
themselves.
It's not coming from here. I think it must be somebody else.
Yeah, just looking.
Yeah. Okay, text 41. You joyfully praise the power of me and my wife to bestow liberation, but we think this power terrible because the Lord's devotees feel distressed to hear of it. Commentary. Vaishnavas do not like to hear that anyone other than Lord Vishnu can award liberation. Text 42. I thought that was the fact that he's called Mukunda because he awards liberation. I thought he was the only one.
Yes, but as a Vaishnava can award liberation, and Lord Shiva's a Vaishnava.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Text 42. Therefore, O best of Krishna's associates, do not think me a recipient of his compassion. Rather, those who have obtained the essence of his mercy are the residents of Vaikuntha. Commentary. Because Narada is himself one of Lord Vishnu's principal attendants in Vaikuntha, he should not have to be told that the Vaikuntha Vasis are true recipients of Lord's mercy. In the next 6 verses, text 43 through 48, Lord Shiva specifies their qualifications. Text 43. They have given up everything as worthless straw, worshipping their dear Lord Hari in pure devotion. They have no respect for the desirable achievements of this world. They will not even glance at those perfections. Commentary. Some devotees have always been residents of Vaikuntha, and others are elevated to Vaikuntha from the material world. Even the process of self-surrender by which the sadhana-siddha Vaishnavas attain Vaikuntha is glorious. The successful sadhakas attract the favor of Lord Vishnu by focusing their devotion on him alone, ignoring every other means of success, including the religious principles of the Vedas and the mystic perfections of yoga. When material perfections become automatically to advanced Vaishnavas as secondary effects of exclusive devotion, the Vaishnavas pay no attention to them, as if these measures that others struggle to obtain were worthless garbage. Text 44. Those devotees have abandoned every kind of false pride, and they have attained the world beyond the material modes and devoid of all fear. Vaikuntha, which is Satchidananda, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Commentary. The residents of Vaikuntha are greater not only than the materialists, the candidates for liberation, and the liberated, but even than Lord Shiva, the giver of liberation. According to his own view of himself, Lord Shiva is subject to the influence of false ego, whereas the devotees in Vaikuntha are free from this defect. By virtue of this freedom from false pride, Vaishnavas attain Vaikuntha, which in spite of being a particular place is not temporary and illusory like the places of the material world. The eternal existence of Vaikuntha is full of pure consciousness and unlimited satisfying bliss. It is none of the restrictions of material existence. Many Puranas describe the absolute perfection of Vaikuntha. For example, in the conversation between Brahma and Narada in Sri Narada Pancharatra, we can read in the Jitam Te Strota. Impossible to obtain for pure non-Vaishnavas, the world called Vaikuntha is devoid of the 3 material modes and full in the 6 divine traits. It is rich and eternally perfect self. It is rich with eternally perfect souls who all have those same 6 traits and who appear in the 5 different ages of life. All auspicious Vaikuntha is beautified by many palaces and assembly halls, and by wells, tanks, ponds, gardens, forests, and groves of trees. That transcendental world, worshipped by the demigods, is more brilliantly effulgent than 10,000 suns. In the Brahmanda Purana, it is the abode of countless spiritual qualities, a world of unapproachable supreme light. It cannot be perceived by material senses, nor compared to anything known. It is supremely ecstatic and beyond the scope of the senses. Very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, the personality of Godhead was pleased to manifest its personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons free from all miseries and fear of illusory existence. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor have they any influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time, so what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and demons worship the Lord as devotees. And in the 10th canto, 10:28, 14 to 15, thus deeply considering the situation of the cowherd men, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed to them his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Lord Krishna revealed the indestructible spiritual effulgence, which is unlimited, conscious, and eternal. Sages see that supreme spiritual existence in trance when their consciousness is free from the modes of material nature. These verses identify Vaikuntha with the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgent light of the all-pervading Supreme. That is, with the same absolute existence described in the Upanishads under the name Brahman. With the eye of intelligence, self-satisfied sages, munis, envision Vaikuntha, but they are not fit to achieve it. I'll keep going.
Yeah, well, perhaps just let's just stop there at Vaikuntha. Let's see if it's a place which cannot, as it said, cannot be perceived at all. But it's been explained to us by those who have experience of Vaikuntha. Otherwise, we cannot comprehend.
What does it mean by these verses identify Vaikuntha with the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgent light of the all-pervading Supreme? I mean,
Yep.
it's different, isn't it? It's not like
Where's that again? I like to see the
last paragraph.
last paragraph. This verse identifies Vaikuntha with the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgent light of the all-pervading Supreme. That is with the same absolute existence described in the Upanishads under the name Brahman, with the eye of intelligence. So satisfied sages envision Vaikuntha, but not fit to achieve it. Let me just read the verse. I'm not sure anyone could shed any light on that. This verse identifies Vaikuntha with Brahma Jyoti, the effulgent light of the Supreme, all-pervading Supreme. Might be it has some of the same constituents in that it's free of the modes of material nature.
Yeah, I think maybe it just means that they're both on the spiritual. I mean, they're both spiritual. I mean, Brahma Jyoti is spiritual energy, so they're both kind of spiritual.
Yeah, so you could say that both places of Vaikuntha, they're both places where there is no experience of material misery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. But we understand from our studies that that Brahma Jyoti is not the planet Vaikuntha itself. So there is a difference. Yeah. Yeah. So any other questions about Vaikuntha? Anyone been there lately? Can confirm what's been described here? Yeah, we was just a new Vajdam. Yeah, desire trees and very blissful place. Yeah, as I was saying, we cannot. It's we are given information here of another existence, and we're given information very much in the Srimad Bhagavatam in lots of detail, and we're giving information also in. It's hinted at in the Bhagavad Gita. is explained in detail in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's also describing the Brahma Samhita, because Lord Brahma had revelation of Vaikuntha. And in the Bhagavatam, actually, there's great detail about Vaikuntha. There's a big description of Vaikuntha, about the bodies of the residents of Vaikuntha. So these are super concepts that only perhaps the faithful can actually believe in. Yeah. A lot of atheist type people, they don't, or atheist type, but atheists. Even Christians have a concept of heaven, even Muslims, isn't it? They won't go into the different concepts, but most religions, as far as I know, have a concept of a place other than this place. That this is a place to be freed from. This is a place of suffering. That's common.
Yeah.
Common. That's a common thing amongst all major religious traditions. And it's a place where the prophets are coming to tell us about. Jesus has come to tell us about, or whatever it may call, Muhammad, or whatever it may be. And also, we have the same. Lord Chaitanya is coming to tell us about that place. But ultimately, for us, more important is the development of having a heart that's like Vaikuntha, like being free of envy. You know, we can develop Vaikuntha consciousness here now. Yeah, we can be in Vaikuntha in our consciousness if we're Krishna conscious, or we can be in the hellish worlds through our consciousness. Yeah. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we can read on a bit more. Some more descriptions. Who is describing this? This is Lord Shiva is describing this, meaning that so he's comparing himself to the Vaikuntha buses, isn't it? Yeah. So he's making this comparison to himself. And I think actually, you remember last time we read, I was asking who does Narada go to next? So I give the game away. Basically, he goes to Vaikuntha, and then in Vaikuntha, he comes to Lakshmi. Yeah. And he said Lakshmi is the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. Now, and then she will then condemn herself. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, but someone else can read from 45.
Anybody want?
I can read if you want. Okay. Someone
Okay, alive. Oh, you can read it. Go on.
Yeah, I can read. I don't mind. Right.
Yeah, do that.
Kept me into the spirit realm a bit late. So 45. I have a go at the Sanskrit. Tattva ye chachit anand. Tattva ye satchit ananda. Deha parama vaibhavam. Vaibhavam. Sampraptyam satchit anandam. Harishashtim chanabhajan. In Vaikuntha, the residents have Satchit Ananda bodies. They may avail themselves of the supreme opulence of Lord Hari. They have Satchit Ananda powers equal to his. But the residents of Vaikuntha do not like to accept such equality with the Lord. Commentary. The residents of Vaikuntha have individual bodily forms, but these are not forms of material illusion. As Yudhisthira said in the question to Narada Muni, the Hindriya Sho Hinanam Vaikuntapura Vashinam. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, have nothing to do with the material bodies, senses, or life air. Bhagavatam 7.135. The Vaikuntha Vasis are transcendental, and so also are their external opulences. Each resident has more power and wealth than are available in millions of material universes and their covering shells. These opulences, which the Vaikuntha residents achieve without effort and without limitations are spiritual, eternal, and absolutely real. They are expansions of the Supreme Lord's divine energy, and so they are infinitely desirable and full of variety. Logical and scriptural evidence of these facts will be presented later in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So interesting to read out some logical evidences as well as scriptural. Text 46. Hari Bhakya Param Vritta Bhaktan Bhaktim Chashavataha Rakshanto Vadanyantascha Shantaranti Yatvichaya. Commentary or verse translation. They are satisfied simply to worship Lord Hari with devotion. They travel freely wherever they want, protecting and promoting the cause of the Lord's devotees and the Lord's devotional service. Commentary. The devotees in Vaikuntha do not want to equal Lord Vishnu because they want to serve him in loving devotion. Nothing other than bhakti gives them pleasure. In Lord Vishnu's own words, Maya Shantusta Manasa Sava Shuka Maya Dishaha. One whose mind is completely satisfied in me finds only happiness wherever he goes. So just good to note here, as we're hearing about the mentality of the residents of Vaikuntha, this is the mentality that we have to develop here. Yeah. So that will qualify us if the Lord wishes to bestow us upon that. That will qualify us to associate with such persons. Yeah. So we can learn. Yeah. Here they only take pleasure in bhakti itself. They have no selfish. There's no separate selfish interest for them. The only sense of identity and pleasure is in serving the Lord. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah. Right. So keep that in mind. This is this is Krishna consciousness. These eternally liberated Vaikuntavasis are always helping others. Oh, acting in the material world, they protect sincere persons. Okay, so now he's speaking about these Vaikuntavasis in the material world. Acting in the material world, they protect sincere persons from misunderstanding the principles of devotional service and thereby falling down and being punished by the agents of Chamaraj. The Vaikuntavasis encourage the descent of advanced devotees into saintly families, act for the increased prosperity and influence of those devotees, and render unseen help to the devotees preaching, by which more and more conditioned jivas are brought back to Krishna consciousness. As instructing spiritual masters, the Vaikuntavasis and their representatives remove the obstacles of attachment to karma and gyan, and inspire their disciples in various ways to dedicate themselves fully to Krishna's service. Because the residents of Vaikuntha are free from restrictions of karma, their efforts never go in vain. Okay, so this is interesting. Well, it's all interesting. What's particularly interesting about this?
Full of a spiritual, sorry.
So, Savannah first?
Yeah, they don't accumulate karma. It's just service because, I mean, they have done a lot to be in Vaikuntha in the first place. All the three modes have been left behind, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, but there's something else here. Something mystical.
I like what it says, like they provide unseen help to the devotees.
Yeah, this is like quite a major point. I haven't come across this before, but here it's being actually described almost like they have this concept in a pseudo Christianity or pseudo spiritualism that there's guiding you, you know.
Angels guiding you.
Angels guide. That's the word.
Yes.
Angels.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's what's. Perhaps we use a different description rather than angels, but there is here we're being described that the residents of Vaikuntha, they actually help the devotees.
Maybe it's like divine intervention of some kind.
Yeah. So first of all, one of the things they do is they encourage members of residents of Vaikuntha to come, that we're more familiar with,
Yes.
take birth into saintly families.
Yeah.
And they increase and they act to increase the influence of those devotees.
Yeah.
And they render unseen help to the
Unseen
devotees. So there's unseen help. So they must help in many ways. And in many ways unbeknown to us. Now, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but on face value, this is what it's explaining.
We can see that with our spiritual masters, you know, like how they
them
teach
coming down.
us.
Yeah.
And you know, like sometimes we say, oh, they've come from a different planet. Definitely, they've come from Vaikuntha. I mean,
Yeah.
all of, like Srila Prabhupada, all his disciples, they're on a different level.
Yeah. There wasn't, as Prabhupada, someone said, he was a Vaikuntha man. Prabhupada would describe about his spiritual master. But yeah, that's a very good point. And here also, as instructing spiritual masters, the Vaikuntha-vasis and their representatives. So both the Vaikuntha-vasis and those who and their representative remove obstacles of attachment. So that's the instructing and initiating spiritual masters.
This helps us appreciate them even more so now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, because they're like our angels, you could say, our respective spiritual guides, spiritual masters. So they might not like that termination, but it's arranged. That's the nature of the Vaikuntha heart, because it's free of envy. They're free of envy. That they all, if someone is free of envy, then they only want to do good to others. And specifically, the best good is to direct one to the path of bhakti. Yeah, the efforts. Yeah, anyone heard that very intriguing story? Sorry, I don't want to go into angel and ghost stories now, but there's that story that I read in that Indra Maharaj tells, where he was really, really exhausted, and he had to embark on another arduous preaching endeavor. I forget the details of what that preaching was. I think, no, actually, he was involved in some accident. That was it. He was involved in some accident, and his body was in his body was in desperate need of repair, both, physically. Physically, he was completely broken down. And he had this dream, stroke vision, however you want to take it, that these angel-like personalities came to him, and they took him. I forget the details of it now, whether they took him somewhere, but they did something to his body, and he was there in the dream or the vision, seeing them adding all these ailments, all these oils, and doing, I forget those details. There's the essence of the point, that he was healed by these quote unquote angels who came to him in this vision, stroke dream. And he woke up the next day completely refreshed and cured. That's in one of his, anyone remember reading that? Something like that, to confirm whether I got it right or not, but in one of his diaries, I think that's there. Anyway, any other comments on that or questions? Let's read on. So here, yeah, we're getting lots of help. Yeah, I was thinking, because I'm thinking, Anantas Chintayantamam Yedana Payapasati, that it's Krishna who helps in every way. It's Krishna. It's directly Krishna who helps the devotees. But here, where it seems to be saying that Krishna there's other persons which also help the devotees. Well, I guess the spiritual master is also helping, but perhaps I'm expanding it too far. let's read another verse. Muktan apasayan muktan apahasantiva vakunte satatam prabhum bhajanta pakshi vrikshadi rupe vivida sevaya. Always worshipping the Lord in Vaikuntha, they seem amused by those who are merely liberated. The Vaikuntha Vasis are always busy in various services, for which they even take on forms like those of birds and trees. Okay, so we get more information now about Vaikuntha. Kamalaya layam hanangri kamalam bodhavadanam sampasyanto harim shakshat ramate sahate jana setena ye. They can always see him in person, Lord Hari, who inspires everyone's pleasure and whose lotus feet are cared for by the goddess of fortune. So now introduce the goddess of fortune. Their life in his company is pure joy. Commentary. Those who have attained liberation from material existence enjoy boundless varieties of loving service. Only foolish, unfortunate persons ignore such an opportunity and instead pursue an impersonal idea of liberation. The devotees in Vaikuntha feel compassion for the impersonalists, but it seems that while exuberantly serving Lord Narayan, the devotees ridicule the impersonalists by taking on the forms of animal, birds, and plants. Impersonalists cannot understand the difference between the tamasic forms of lower life in the material world and the transcendental varieties of life in Vaikuntha. Still, Vaikuntha devotees never actually make fun of others to belittle them, because devotees are always kind to the fallen. The Vaikuntha devotees never indulge in useless frivolity, which is a deviation from the mood of pure devotion. That many kinds of animals and plants live in Vaikuntha, and that they all enthusiastically serve the Supreme Person, is confirmed by the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me just read the translation to that. When the king of bees hums in high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. The flowering plants like the Anna, Gonda, Utpala, Champaka, Bakola, Ambuja, Mandhara, Punnaga, Karabaka, Parijata, Nagakeshara are full of transcendental fragrance, but still they are conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi. Yes, for Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Lord Shiva uses the present verb sampashyanta, seeing, to indicate that Vaikuntha devotees see the Lord without interpretation. By this, he implies that he, in contrast, can see the Lord infrequently, and then only within his heart. I'll just read this one more verse, and someone else can read. Aho karunya mahima Shri Krishna Shakotonyata Vaikuntha Loko Jashram Tadiyeshu Tarajate. Where else can one see compassion so exalted as that which Sri Krishna showers constantly on the residents of Vaikuntha Loka? So quite a solid case that Lord Shiva is making. These residents of Vaikuntha, they actually live with the Lord. And that's their existence for eternity. Whereas Lord Shiva, he may have some darshan of the Lord, but the Lord comes, gives darshan, and then he goes. And through his mature meditation, he may envision the Lord in the heart, but he doesn't interact with the Lord like the residents of Vaikuntha. And I think later it's going to, I think the Pandavas will be brought in later as being receivers of the Lord's mercy, because the Lord was their own, actually their own family member in one sense. So any questions or comments on this? Tulsi's being glorified here as well. Okay, anyone like to read from text 50?
I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll read more about Vaikuntha.
In Vaikuntha, nothing exists but devotional service, rendered through Sankirtan and in many other forms. It goes on incessantly, with great enthusiasm, spreading the ecstasy of pure love. Devotees in the spiritual world never tire of chanting the Supreme Lord's glories and singing and dancing for his pleasure. There, Prema Bhakti is the only activity. Anything anyone does in Vaikuntha is pure service and nothing else, because all the residents are fixed unswervingly in bhakti. How amazing is that supremely great ocean of transcendental bliss. The bliss of Brahma cannot compare to even a fraction of the half a drop of it. 52.
You can read the commentary, no?
Oh, yes, thank you. Brahmananda is a happiness derived from realizing one's spiritual identity, compared to the joy of sharing one's personal relationship with the Supreme Spirit. Brahmananda is insignificant. Text 52. That Vaikuntha world, its residents and everything there are blessed by the mercy of pure love for the lotus feet of Krishna. Commentary. On contrast, Lord Shiva implies his own planet and other material worlds do not have the blessings of Krishna Prem. 53. As residents of such mercy, the divine residents of Vaikuntha are much greater than I in many ways. How can I adequately describe their glories? Every resident in Vaikuntha is Sriman, entirely favored by the goddess of fortune, the consort of the Supreme Lord. Each of them, therefore, has access to the full wealth and power found in millions of universes. But because the Vaikuntha Vasis are pure devotees, they prefer not to take advantage of these blessings for anything but the opportunity to serve their Lord. This distinguishes them from the conditioned souls of the material world. Text 54. Though living within the material world in bodies composed of the 5 elements, persons expert in relishing devotional service to the Lord are always worshipable for persons like me. Wherever in the material world the mood of Vaikuntha is found, Lord Shiva worships the carriers of the mood of his superiors. He expresses this same attitude in the Narayan Vyuhastava of the Hayashirsha Pancharatra. To those who have come under the influence of pure devotion for Vishnu and have therefore abandoned their worldly religious duties and profitable endeavors just to worship the soul of souls, I consistently offer my repeated respects. 55. Such expert relishers surrender themselves fully to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, hoping to obtain exclusive love for him. They abandon their wealth, their family, and their very lives. 56. They are not interested in any of the means and ends of success in this world or the next. They have gone beyond subservience to the rules that apply according to birth, occupation, and spiritual status. 57. Even if they have not repaid their 3 debts and are therefore transgressing Vedic principles by the power of their devotion to Lord Hari, they are ever fearless. 58. Greedy to taste the pleasure of devotion to him, they have no desire for anything else. To them, liberation, heaven and hell all appear the same. Fearlessness and freedom from selfish desires are spontaneous symptoms of those who enjoy the transcendental taste of Krishna consciousness. The surrendered devotees of the Supreme Lord are already perfect, but they humbly think of themselves only potential candidates for Prema Bhakti, aspiring to be awarded exclusive love of God. They abandon attachment to property and family. They are not even interested in protecting themselves from threats or to their lives, since they have no desire for the worldly goals of prestige, security, and sense enjoyment. They have no urge to work to earn the money and pious credits required for obtaining these objects of desire. And as further consequence of their freedom from material ambition, they have transcended identifying the self in the terms of material social divisions, the Brahman caste and other occupational designations, and even human and demigod species. They have risen above the regular and occasional obligations of all these categories. From the very day of one's birth, one is encumbered with 3 kinds of debts. To the demigods who provide the basic needs of life, one owes the performance of sacrifice. To the parents for whom one inherits the good karma and cultural heritage of one's family, one owes offspring. And to the sages who teach how to fulfill the spiritual potential of human life, one owes study of Vedas. One who fails to absolve oneself from these debts by doing what is required and avoiding what is forbidden can expect severe punishment from Yamaraj, the judge of the sinful. Dear Prabhu, a member of the twice-born classes is born with 3 kinds of debts. Those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to the forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying scripture, and begetting children, he will fall down into the hellish condition. Bhagavatam 10:84-39. The pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, however, are immune from the reactions for neglecting the laws of material nature. They need not perform ritual sacrifice, beget sons, and study the text of the Vedas. They have no fear of karmic retribution. Nothing they do can be sinful. They can act confidently. However, they wish on the strength of their pure devotion to Lord Vishnu. Pure devotional service exempts Vaishnavas from the karmic obligations of non-devotees, as Lord Krishna has explained to 2 of his most trustworthy devotees, Uddhav and Arjun. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activities and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. Bhagavatam 11:29. This proposition implies that after that taste, has developed, a devotee no longer needs to perform Vedic duties. Sarva dharman paritajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma sucha.
Ah,
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. It's Bhagavad Gita 18:66. Sri Narad also gave the same instruction to Vyasadeva. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in the immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Bhagavatam 1:5-17. The fearless Vaishnavas are also free from all selfish concerns. They have no interest in the transcendental perfections, such as the personal form like the Supreme Lord's. What to speak of the refined sense enjoyment of the residents of Lord Brahma's planet, or the happiness of impersonal nirvana. In the eyes of the pure devotees of the Lord, everything other than pure love of God is not only insignificant, but also detrimental to the advancement of bhakti. Thus, they consider impersonal liberation and being elevated to heaven the same as being sent to hell. Speaking here to Narad, Lord Shiva echoes his own words from the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, 6:17-28.
Hey, Krishna, Pipiti Svadbhava Kanakeshu Apatuyat Dashanaha. Go on.
Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I was thinking that would be perhaps a 2-line purple, and I was going to stop there for any comments, but it ended up being a very long purple. That took us up to 7 o'clock. But any closing comments or questions on this? Yes. I was thinking such devotees are obviously in touch with something wonderful, something absolutely transcendental for them to be impervious, especially in the Vedic Varnashram system, which so much is very ritualistic. So for one to not care for such things means they must be experiencing Vaikuntha. Yeah. They know as long as they have devotion to Krishna, they have devotion to Vishnu, and they're being nourished by that devotion. There isn't anything in this world which can affect them. You know? That's what I'm saying. These different verses here, we're born with different debts. But one says devotion like this, also there's devotion to Krishna. So here also, you can see the screen here. I'm highlighting this verse here. This is a often quoted verse, which is quoted verse, very important verse, this one here. Like we're engaged in bhakti, so we've got a taste. So to that degree, as we have taste for Shravanam, Kirtanam, we're not bound by the tight, stricter rules of I'm going to say, let's try stricter rules of Vana and Ashram, so we might act to set the example. But for those who don't have a taste for bhakti, then it's very important that they behave according to, devotees will naturally, spontaneously behave according to the, Vedic regulations. But for those who do not have that spontaneous attraction, then they have to strictly follow. Otherwise, they'll be described there, punished by Yamaraj. Anyway, Any closing thoughts or comments on this? Otherwise, we can stop there. Sorry, I came a bit late. Got bewildered by the time. And next week we can start from text 59. All right. Let's just have a peek, see where we're going. Yeah. I know. All right. So let's then start next text 59 next week. And thank you for getting together, everyone. And
Thank you.
we have got time on reading, and we'll continue next week. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. We have got time ki jai.
Jai Manohar Prabhu ki jai.